We might get a few more days on. All right, this is the Stephen E. Kelly Show. Hi, my name is Stephen E. Kelly. It is May 27th, what day? 2021. It's now 6:08. I'm sorry. I was talking to a dead microphone because I never brought in the server. Hey, we're all there. The title of tonight's show is The Rise of the Jedi and the Fall of the Reich. So I've got to talk about Nazis. And I also have to talk about remote viewing. I have to talk about the Jedi stuff. I can tell you all kinds of things, exciting stuff about what has happened the last week. But before I do that, for the benefit of posterity and those people that might not be aware of what's going on, they might be first timers sometime either now or in the future. I'm going to try to explain a little bit about why we're doing this, how we're doing this, and why we're not nuts. Okay, so first of all, yes, I was in the CIA, NSA, not really in them, but a contractor. I worked for them. They got me doing crazy things, and that's just the nature of the way they do that stuff. But at the same time, that was more of a control thing because what they're really doing is trying to keep me busy because they thought I was going to do something else. And ultimately, this led to interaction with the people that I call the cavers that are running the world from these underground bunkers, and namely the one under the Getty Museum in Los Angeles, California. So, my mission is to get them back, basically, to take over their power and to stop them from doing what they're doing. And of course, my plan to do that is through the Occupy the Getty mission. And if you follow up and you learn anything about this hashtag Occupy the Getty business, you're going to find out that the only reason we even know that there's a bunker down there is because we were using remote viewers. Now, before you say that that's bunko or satanic or something silly like that, I just want to say that this is the real deal. The military does it, and the enemy that we're talking about, the one that has the bunker down there, that is a big part of what they do. So much so that if you do follow history and you look into the Nazi mythology and the Nazi secrets involving their, well, UFOs, the Foo Fighters, that sort of thing. You also know that they had secret organizations involving the occult. Very often this led to interactions with aliens of various types, but often it used psychics in remote viewing, and very often these involved women, and these women were called Vril, V-R-I-L. So Vril being one of the branches, the other one I believe is the I can't remember right now, but Ananebre, I believe, is the overall blanket group that was running this stuff. This is the whole Indiana Jones business that you see. Anyway, they never stopped recruiting these people for these purposes, and a lot of the things that I have to say, aside from this business that there's Nazi psychics out there trying to control the world, the reality is that after World War II, the Nazis didn't lose. There was an operation in Antarctica. It was going to be the final battle of the war, and this, of course, was Operation High Jump. And the commander of that operation was none other than Admiral Byrd. And Admiral Byrd, of course, is a famous polar explorer, and he actually had experience with the Nazis in the very area where they planned on conducting these operations, where the Nazi had established bases. And these bases, of course, have been there well in the late 30s. They had been well established by the late 30s. The reality, of course, is that that battle revealed to the United States that the Nazis were in league with entities that seemed to come from under the water, come from under the ice, flying saucers, this sort of thing, and they believed that these were not human. These were actually entities that were coming from someplace else, possibly within the Earth. Admiral Byrd returned to the president and asked that the island or Antarctica or the whole area be annihilated with nuclear bombs, and the president said no. But what did happen was that a treaty was signed with these Nazis, who are now had proven themselves to be technologically far superior to the Allies at this point. The deal basically resulted in half of the United States being given to these Nazis to control, and there was a cooperation between the United States, what was you could call the government, and this Nazi group. Of course, what you could call the government was, of course, the opposite of the Nazis, and this was the Zionist types, if you will, for lack of a better term. But those guys, the Chabad types, these ones, are very close to Nazis. And even though these guys are working from separate sides of the country, they're still working very, very closely together. And it's extremely difficult to tell who's who in this charade, because it seemed like they were operating from both sides of the country, and from either party, you never know who's really loyal to who. And I suspect that this is sort of like two brothers who may argue sometimes, but really they're working for each other. On the West Coast, one of the first things that we found out by investigating the Getty was that this operation was a Templar operation. If you don't know what Templars are, a Templar basically goes back to the Middle Ages, when the Jesuits, which is a sect of the Catholic Church that was essentially started by Jewish infiltrators, they went and created this wing of the church, which was the Templars. And the Templars, of course, were a military order, much like the Jesuits themselves, soldiers of Christ per se. Anyway, the story of the Templars, of course, is that they, through holding the secret of Christ having children over the head of the Vatican, they were able to extort power and gain power through banking and establish Masonic Baphomet-based worship and all kinds of horrible stuff that they were basically, well, let's just say they were burned at the stake for. But they are very much involved in European aristocracy. The Templars are still very much alive as blue bloods in German, and the Nazi Empire, of course, was very much attached to these Templar orders, of which there were more than one, because the Templars basically split to a faction A and faction B at different times when they didn't agree with either Hitler or Kaiser. A lot of these people went to the United States and they settled, and then, of course, after World War II and after the Treaty of, well, what happened in Antarctica, a large portion of the Nazis came to the United States under Operation Paperclip. So we had a very large portion of the Nazi secret establishment right in the highest levels of government, directing espionage and secret activity on the soil of the United States, and this is well known. What's not known is that the Nazis control the entire western half of the country, from the Rockies to the Pacific Ocean. So the Getty, of course, is a Templar base. And when people are confused about the role of the Zionists and the Nazis, I think it's very simple. You just remember that the Templars were started essentially by the Jews, and that the Nazis are Templar. So it's not too far-fetched, and we don't need to dwell on that too much. But what is happening is that we've been zeroing in on activity that is mostly Nazi. We know that the Templar base at the Getty is a essentially Nazi base. And when I personally confronted one of these Haber people about the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, where they claim that should the Goyim ever rise up, they will use their undergrounds, their metropolitans, to destroy the capitals of the Western countries with all of their archives and their valuables. Well, when I confronted him with that, his defense was to say, no, that's not true. We're not all these Zionists, these protocol types. We are, a good portion of us are actually Nazis, as if this was going to make it any better. Anyway, this was a shocking truth that I had to get used to, and I expect that most people are going to have a hard time believing that this is actual reality. Well, I've noticed through the help of others that there is a large concentration of these Nazi types in the Northwest of the United States. And when I say Northwest, I'm talking about the state of Washington, around Seattle, these areas. Before I get into that, of course, I probably need to talk about the remote viewing, but nothing would be known about the bunkers underneath the Getty if it wasn't for remote viewing. because there is no way that you're going to smuggle evidence. There is no way that somebody who's involved in this is going to say something. And even if they did, and even if they weren't killed immediately or silenced, nobody would believe it. So the key here is mostly the perseverance of the person that's trying to bring this to your attention. Obviously, I've been working on this for a good 8 years, possibly more, but we're starting to make headway. Now, before I knew anything about this Getty business, I, of course, was working on my psychic ability, but it was mostly because of my exposure to these underground dwelling elitists that I was coerced or decided to pursue the development of psychic skills as opposed to building devices, electronics, new technology. As a weapon, the psychic skills seem to be having the most potential, especially when you're dealing with an enemy that is not physical or human. Well, along the way, I met quite a few of these people with various levels of psychic skills, and remote viewing is just one part of the picture. And even the people that are doing remote viewing, some of them have more skills than others. Some people remember things more vividly. Some people have more control over what they do. Some people can actually interfere with other people, see from within other people, and actually manipulate other people remotely. And this, of course, is something that's very handy. But I always knew that I wanted to get a group of psychics to go to the Getty and to focus energy on the Getty, because I knew that we could use our brains to penetrate down into these bunkers and screw with them with our skills. Well, as luck would have it, thanks to Facebook and other platforms, I was able to meet quite a few people, especially after starting the Occupy the Getty movement and this is before the Jedi, I think, of course, but I met quite a few of these people that were very skilled and have been wanting to work together. And without going into the whole Rambo business or what the entire nature of this 3D is, for the sake of this show right now, we're just going to say the spirit realm. But we had a lot of activity. We had a lot of people working together. We had what I would call freelance activity. But the point is, it wasn't until about 4 years ago, roughly in November, that we actually had a breakthrough where it went from casual observance and negotiation to a actual slaughter. Something snapped, and a group of these people, myself included, were involved in a real-life battle that went on for days. And I know this is hard for a lot of people to believe, and it's not really important to understand the details. I certainly don't expect to understand everything myself, and if I did, I think I would probably go crazy. But since then, several things have happened. One of the things that happened was that I learned that I could use Reiki, or the power of intention, to use other people who have taken an oath to Jesus to become a warrior, and of course to say thank you for the pleasure of being a warrior for Christ, and that I could use my special initiation skills designed to activate somebody's ability to function in the spirit world. So by taking a person who was ready to devote their entire existence, their soul, to this job, and of course it has to be sincere, and then by using my intention, I found that I could create an army immediately of people's souls that were able to fight and show up where they needed to be and carry out missions. Since then, of course, I have also met psychics who were very active in seeing, what we would call seers. And I've also had the opportunity to welcome the help of several people who are military trained. Now, of course, when I say military trained, I'm talking about people who are gifted and skilled, who have been used by the military for psychic remote viewing operations or something a little more serious, like I was mentioning. And on top of that, I will throw out there that there have been quite a few other people in the military, not of a psychic nature, who have also dedicated themselves to this mission, who are out there. Now, thankfully, most of what we do isn't something that we have to plan, we have to coordinate it, and we have to know anything about. We show up where we need to show up, and what happens. But thanks to some individuals who are, I would call, special forces, we've been able to get active feedback on certain targets. And this is how we were directed to the target of San Juan Islands. And this is very important because it opened up it opened up a significant can of worms. I talked about this at the last show, but I'm going to proceed with it. But the point is that the depth of where this is going and where it's taken us since then and where we're going to have to go because of this is getting into the realm of areas that I could not have envisioned. So we'll talk about that tonight. But before I do that, of course, I have to cover all of this other material. But anyway, because I've had two individuals working together that were not attached in any way, had any communication in any way whatsoever, and were able to identify each other and reference events and things that had taken place, we knew without a doubt that this was real, this was really happening. Now, for those of you that don't understand how this is possibly going to have any effect on reality, you have to understand that the level just above ours, the fourth density, what we're going to call the spirit realm, is like the control room for this level that we're on right now. So much like we would consider this realm to be something of a hologram, it's almost two-dimensional from the view of the realm just above ours. And as such, it's easily modified. Well, as humans, we have the ability to do that ourselves. We can manifest, we can shine energy, we can have intention, we can do magic. And we also have all sorts of other skills that we were blessed with that many of us are just beginning to learn how to use. But we know that the Jedi business is real. And we know that the panic of the enemy, because of our endeavors, is also very real. So let's talk a little bit about what the Jedi have been up to. Now, bear in mind, most of the rank and file Jedi don't remember much. And that's how I prefer it to be. And most of the action is probably directed, as far as we can see, by the Rambo character, who I suspect I have something to do with. But a lot of the operations that we've been working with right now that are the most exciting have just been a couple individuals and the enlisted help of quite a few others to help paint the picture for them. But what we found up north in these islands up there was quite a concentration of nonsense. Hang on a sec, I think I gotta turn on the air conditioner, something's starting to get hot. Just doing Google Earth scans, we found maypoles. There's obvious architecture of alpine nature. There are labyrinths, Nordic runes. The entire mythology is up there. They're not hiding it. It seems kind of logical because, of course, the geography and the climate and the, let's just say the flora is probably similar to what they're used to, so it makes sense that they would congregate up there. The United States, of course, has its submarine bases up there. We also have Boeing, which is a major aerospace manufacturer up there. And, of course, Microsoft is up there, and Bill Gates. So these islands, we found a bunker. Actually, 3 bunkers. We've also found quite a few wealthy types that are apparently hooked up to this system. And these people, of course, for the most part, these are Nazi bunkers. What we are dealing with are vril, Nazi psychics. Now, I've said in my book that came out, whatever it was, 8 years ago, that the first thing they ran into, the remote viewers, were the Nazi psychics. And now we know that these are the vril. Right. So somebody's walking across the street. So that's who we've been dealing with. But at the same time, we're finding evidence, obviously, of people like Bill Gates. We're finding Jeffrey Epstein. We're finding connections to the Epstein organization in the Bahamas, which we know, of course, is a Nazi organization, but at the same time, it's also a mafia organization, one that Donald Trump was involved in. Anyway, there was a portal off the coast, funny enough, and this portal was actually the intersection of ley lines. Now, apparently, the Pacific Northwest, parts of Oregon, parts of Washington, other states nearby, have anomalies that have been called vortexes. And this area is very similar to the anomalies that they experienced down in the Florida, the area called the Bermuda Triangle. But anyway, it would appear that from this portal, where these ley lines were intersecting, immense amounts of energy were available. And this location was actually used for jumping or moving from one density, one dimension, one time, one planet, one star system to another, from here to there. And of course, this is something that's done by many entities, not just these humans that were skilled enough to be able to use alien technology to be able to do this. But the one thing that the Earth humans, the cavers, were able to do, and this is something that I was made aware of many years ago, is that they were able to manipulate our phase of our reality. They were able to change time. They were able to speed it up in order to slow things down. And when I say slow things down, they thought that they were going to be invaded by another entity, another species, that the Earth would be taking over. Of course, we were told that these were bad guys that were coming. And through this technology and this manipulation of the rotation of the Earth by manipulating the magnetic fields or these ley lines, the energy of these ley lines, they were able to cram 300 years of man life, into 50 years. So they took a 50-year period of time, like a rubber yardstick, and they stretched it out. So as the yardstick was getting shorter, and as the time was whittling away, they were stretching the yardstick out farther and farther to the point to where they could not stretch it any further, and that's where we are today. Well, one of the biggest successes of this operation involving Jedi was to actually shut down this portal. Of course, this sounds crazy to the layman. To run off the beast that was protecting it. to encircle it with energy and to make sure that it was not going to be used by anybody, coming or going, or manipulated any way whatsoever as it has been done. Now, one of the things that have made all of this very successful, of course, is the fact that we have been able to utilize the prayers and the intentions and the thoughts, the focus, the brains of many, many people who are exposed to our work through either Telegram, to a small part Facebook, whatever vestiges we have, Twitter, YouTube, etc. So the Occupy the Getty movement is just now starting to break into the mainstream. We have a governor candidate for California. Oh, I should get her name proper. Type me her name, Isabel. Who's mentioning the Getty, supporting Getty. We want to give her a plug. I don't know if she heard me. We have a lot of the voices of the various talking heads. I don't want to say talking heads, perhaps the conservative crowd, so many of which have been following Trump, are beginning to speak up and talk about the Getty issue. It's becoming fashionable, it's becoming hip. And of course, we are the major conspiracy at this time, if you will. And as I've said before, it's not a conspiracy. Ah, yes, Rhonda Fern, thank you so much. Shout out to Rhonda Fern for help on government. And those of you that support Caitlyn Jenner, whatever his name was, I've only got one thing to say, and that is Occupy the Getty. If you could share that with him, her, I would appreciate it. So, we're forcing our way into the public. More and more people are devoting their attention. They're thinking about the Getty. More and more people who have skills are coming out, wanting to be involved, focusing their energies on the targets that we've selected. Now, as I said, there's a lot of crazy things I'm going to have to get you guys to accept. The idea that the Nazis are running half the United States, the fact that the Nazis did not lose World War II and actually made a treaty with the Allies, these are all crazy things to understand, but understanding that the U.S. government is supporting child sex and satanic worship is a whole other thing to understand. Well, we're trying to force that on you with the Getty issue. And the idea, of course, was to physically have the Getty open so that you would see what's inside. But it turns out that the work we're doing on the other side, the work we're doing in the spirit world, the Jedi work, is the only thing that really matters anymore because it's having such incredible results and the enemy is freaking out. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. When the San Jose operation went down and this thing got shut down, we immediately followed these guys down south. And the next place that we were focused on was South America and the tip of Antarctica, the very little areas that are almost attached, the small area of South America, the small area of Antarctica that actually are close together. We focused on those areas. And what we found were several interesting things. Of course, more Nazis, and that's not a surprising thing because we know that Argentina, Chile, Brazil, many of these states, Paraguay, they have a very large contingent of Nazis. And we know that quite a few of them got away and fled to these parts of the world. But we also know that the submarines that dumped off their cargo in the Schwabenland in Antarctica, many of those submarines returned to South America to turn themselves in. with no carbon. We found an underground lake, I believe in Chile. And these underground lakes are very important because the water is unlike what we get on the surface. It's actually the so-called fountain of youth, if you will, for whatever properties it does have. We know there's a lot of gold down there. But we did find a lake probably big enough to give everybody fresh water for a long, long time. When I say everybody, I'm not just talking about the people of Chile. So this is a significant discovery, and this, of course, is the sort of thing that there are probably quite a bit of that is a deeper kept secret. Now, the operations in the surface areas of the South American bases that took place involved a lot of Germans, so they were treated with German language, which was infuriating, I think, to them. They really do hate us. But we're not really pushing it right now at the moment. Believe it or not, there's a little bit of an R&R going on, and who knows? Maybe it's for my birthday. I like to think so. That's a little bit egotistical, but hey, I guess the troops aren't working too hard. I expected there were big battles last night, and tonight I expected my weekend to be completely involved in that sort of thing. But no, I guess we're taking a little break, and how about that? We're going to have a little holiday. But I've been asked to continue to get people to focus on these areas. The San Juan Islands, the Getty Center, and Lookout Mountain in Hollywood. But now, of course, we are also having people, we're asking people to do the same thing with these parts of the world, South America, Chile, the southern tip of South America, and the part of Antarctica close to it. Now, of course, there's quite a few gifted people that are doing this, and they're pulling out all their skills, and this is great because, trust me, all the feedback I'm getting from you is going right into the briefings, right into the intelligence. And trust me, a lot of the activity that's been going on is directly related to the information you guys have been supplying. So I want to ask you to keep doing that. At the same time, I want you to be calm. I want you to keep focusing your energy, but I don't want you to get too excited because I don't want you to burn out. I want you to realize that this is a long haul that we're in right now. It's so long that it's going to go places that I really did not plan on going and didn't really want to go. And that is, of course, the center of the Earth. So the other big thing, of course, is the Earth is hollow. And there is a small portion of inhabited land within this area that is occupied by the Nazis. It has been occupied by the Nazis since the late 40s. Anyway, this is the base of operations for the enemy. And I don't see how it's possible that we can chase Nazis around playing cat and mouse like we're doing and not eventually have to go down inside and visit them in their new Schwabenland. Now, after some consideration, I decided, and I advised the troops, that our method of operation is one of unconditional love, and that we are working for Jesus and supported by Jesus and defended by Jesus and backed up by Jesus, and therefore the entities inside are going to have to deal with that and will probably not interfere. So we are going to embark on an extremely ridiculously large mission of the sort of nature I cannot even imagine that we're going to be reporting back on. I have no clue what the exact nature of the various entities are that live in there, if they're 3D, 4D, or what. I don't know what their politics are. But I think that this is something that we won't be able to avoid. I don't see any negative outcome. I think this is part of the flow. And as I've instructed the others, especially those that are asking for direction at this point, that it's very important to follow this through and go with the flow, go where it takes us. And little did I know it would take us into the center of the earth. So that's the big thing that we're getting ready to deal with right now. So I can only imagine what sort of reports I'll be getting back from the Jedi on the various different entities and what have you, what that's like. Completely new, uncharted territory. But the reality is that we are changing reality. We're taking power away from those that have the power. And the result will probably become very noticeable on the surface eventually. So that's what we're excited about. That's what we're looking forward to. And those of us that are involved, obviously the military guys and those people, I know it's not a big deal for them, but I know that they're enjoying it and that they're exploring uncharted territory just as we are. So these are very exciting times. And I should also just remind you that for whatever reason, the more we do this, the more chaos and panic we seem to be stirring up in the other spectrum over there in Israel. And those guys. Bizarre stuff. So I suspect that by shining a lot of light on one side of the coin, the other side of the coin is going to also be exposed. So ultimately, this is going to work for us. Although, as I said, most people assume that after World War II, the Nazis were gone. No, they're not gone. They've actually got quite a bit more power and technology and advancement than you could imagine. So we're using the same tools, not the same exact tools, but we're using weapons that they understand, weapons that they can't fight back against. But they've been preparing for this, but we have the upper hand, of course, because we got Jesus on our side. I don't know if they got Odin, something like that. I don't think that's quite as effective. All right, anyway, I'm just going to say I'm not going to go too much further because, like I said, it's my birthday and I don't really feel like it right now. But I'm happy that I was able to verbalize what I tried to tell as well as I could. Anyway, if you need any information whatsoever, if you want a copy of my book, of course, it's LAW7GUN at AOL.com. And I just want to throw this out there because it's kind of an issue. I mean, it's not really an issue, but it comes up more often than not lately. And that is, if you are making a donation to PayPal, please make sure that you check the little box that says friend or family, because otherwise they treat it like a transaction, and I have to give it back, okay? Because they want me to submit business information that I don't have, okay? So so if you have sent something, now I understand if you're using it, if you're using your company to send you money, you want to call it a transaction. I understand, but I still have to send it back. But anyway, thank you so much, and all of you that have been helping out, thank you. The birthday wishes, of course, are always appreciated, all of you, and the hard work is extremely appreciated. And the Jedi, of course, I was trying to say how proud I am of all the work that you guys have done, and it really does give me confidence that you're going to take the ball and run with it. And of course, if you want to join the team and find out what it takes to get involved in this business, helping to save the world or correct universal wrongs, again, send me an email to LAW17GUN at AOL.com. What else? The PayPal address is Stephen Kelly 714 at gmail.com. That's KELLEY. STEVEN. Let's see what else. Yeah, that's good. Okay, I actually have RD with me here right now. I'm gonna make him. I'm gonna drag his butt over here a little bit here. He's not asleep. Yeah, he's awake. Anyway, let's see what else I want to share. All right, let's do that. And also, if you guys want to call in, of course, you're welcome to. I'll be happy to bring in anyone. you have any questions or want to give me crap, please go ahead. All right, let's go ahead and take a break. Thank you so much. All right. Anyway, like I said, if there's anybody that wants to join us, I got our dealer here. He's like, I'm too tired. You'd have to yell across the room anyway. Can you guys hear that? All right. Seriously though, if there's anybody else that wants to join us, I know Amy said she swore she's not going to call in on that Tuesday. What else do I want to say? I don't have the information for Telegram out here. It's hard to really get people to join it because it's the different type of platform that a lot of people are used to. But a lot of activity has been taking place last week or so, of course, because of Rhonda Fern mentioning us and other people out there starting to talk more about the Getty. So it's driven quite a few people in our direction, which is great. And hopefully we can get those people to bring in more people. We can keep this momentum going. And I would expect that there's quite a few people that are coming into this that are seeing a lot of this crazy Jedi talk and this talk about what we're doing. But again, we got to the point with the results that we don't really care at this point. It's just the way it is. And the fact that we've got such well-credentialed professionals involved in the work that we're doing. We used to be doing the very same work for the government. We weren't able to do it with the passion that we were able to do it now because it's not the same. It wasn't the same. They were the bad guys. Well, now everything that we're doing now is righteous. And it's enabling us to go places we never even imagined being able to go. And the power is really something incredible to behold. So I can't stress enough, if you want to be involved in this fight, it's a good time to join. Again, send me an email and I'll send you a couple paragraphs that basically tell you what to do. And if you're okay with that, you write back to me and say, yeah, I'm ready. And we do it. And you'll be involved in this stuff right away. So I have a feeling that the future is going to have a lot of activity that's going to involve our work. And it seems to me to be very much like the silly Star Wars movies. If that's the case, I would say that the bad guys at this point are the Sith, and they seem to be the Nazis. Okay, the other guys could fall into that category too. I don't know if you were paying attention, but Darth Vader had all sorts of Hebrew all over his armor. If you were paying any attention. But point being is that Jedi can do things they can't do. We can do things with our minds that they can't do. And they really can't hurt us. There's really nothing they can do. And don't get me wrong, there is a lot of fighting and pounding and attempts to do all sorts of damage. And they use every trick they've got. But we have an arsenal that they don't have. It includes angels and spiritual warriors and entities that have been waiting for this opportunity for a very long time. So this is the big deal, and we're really excited to be part of it. We hope you guys will support us. But either way, I really can't tell you how fast this is going to go, but it's going to start going very fast after we have a little bit of fun tonight, I suppose. So those of you that are, I know a lot of you are tired all day and you're wondering what the heck is going on. I know we must be busy, and yeah, sure, there's no time. But if they're telling me that we're having R&R, then we're having R&R. Okay, so enjoy it. I'm not going to go much further. Look at that. We haven't even got an hour. Yeah, that's good enough. I know a lot of people are just tuning in, but to be honest with you, I can't even see my client server. I can't see who's listening. I haven't been able to bring it up. Now, I know I'm broadcasting because I can hear it over my computer and I can see that I'm streaming. I've been streaming for a good 20 hours. But for whatever reason, I can't see who's out there. can't look at any of that information, any of those statistics. So I suspect that there are people, there are entities that did not want this show to happen. It's little disruptions sometimes. Power outage last night, phone calls at the wrong time, this kind of thing, little distractions, my screwing up, not doing things right, being distracted. But either way, hopefully enough of you are out there hearing this that it's going to have a difference, and hopefully those of you that listen to this program on YouTube will share it and want to be involved. But before we go, I want to stress again that if you're not a Jedi and you don't have any interest in being involved in something that you think is fantastic, well, praying or meditating, focusing your thoughts on these areas that we're talking about, these geographic areas, paint them with energy and light. It helps us immensely to do this work. So, even though we're kind of taking the night off for a day or two so I can, I don't know, mark the event, I still need to ask you to not let up, because the energy that's, and the love and the prayers and just the mental power that's being focused on these areas, these geographical areas that we've decided to work in, you have no idea what it does. It's an immense power, and we need to learn to use this even more. And it will be incredible when the day comes that we can get large portions of the population to do exactly this, and to focus their energy and their scalar waves emanating from the brain in one location. It's amazing what we could accomplish if we could keep people doing that. So if you're involved in doing that now, please don't stop. And I'll keep you posted on things, but the main thing is to keep up the morale and to keep up the momentum. All right? And we couldn't be doing any of this without the help of all of you out there that are just thinking about it. You've made it so much easier for us to accomplish these great things. And trust me, you've got the enemy shaking. They know their days are over. So that's why when you talk to me about COVID, or you talk to me about Washington or something of this nature, it just doesn't matter anymore. Because the stuff that we're doing, secrets we're unlocking, we were never meant to see. It's a very humbling experience, and I can't thank enough all the people that have been working, and someday we'll all get to look forward to having our names written on the wall in heaven, right? How exciting is that? All right, with that, I'm going to pay you. See that? It's only 7 o'clock. Wonderful. I don't have to do a whole lot of that. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed it. I've got a date with a pint of stout, 2 pints if I'm lucky. We'll see. I look forward to seeing you next week. I'm glad you're able to pull this off without me completely forgetting to hit the record button or something like that. So, hey, all is good, right? So hopefully I'll hear from you guys and you'll let me. Oh, look at this, Missy trying to call. Okay, Missy, fine. I'll answer to the call. Again, people, I shall talk to you very soon. Next week, I hope. And hopefully by that time we'll have some exciting news to share. But in the meantime, my name is Stephen Kelly. This is Stephen D. Kelly Show. This is TruthcatRadio, www.truthcatradio.com. It's now 7:02 p.m. May 27th, 2001. Okay, see you next week. Good night. God bless. Adios. And goodbye.
Mm-hmm.